Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are so grateful to have you here with us today to walk through the 24-25 Fast Reform, leveraging our prototype platform. Whether you're coming to us from the West Coast, the East Coast, national and international, we are grateful you have decided to spend some time with us today. And I must say, the FAFSA itself has come a long way. Much like we receive our directions by word of mouth and or by paper using leveraging some type of online platform, and now we're using GPS. The FAFSA has come a long way from many of you that remember it in paper form. We have made it simple. We have simplified it to help increase accessibility. We have simplified it to help increase eligibility, and we are excited, so excited today because we're going to go through the FAFSA form from a student's perspective, and then we're going to do it from a parent's perspective. And so we want to make sure that when you walk away today, that you are so excited, you're very well informed, and that you not only learn something, but you share something. Now, not let me take too much of your time on an intro because I know you didn't come here to hear me talk and hear my voice. You came here to see exactly what's it going to look like, how what you can do to prepare, and what you need to know. Now, first things first, you can go to studentaid.gov or FAFSA.gov to access the FAFSA form. If you come to studentaid.gov, you're going to see these four different tabs up top here. This is going to allow you to look into more information regarding the FAFSA form, regarding grants, student loan, federal student loans. If you're in repayment, you will get information about that, as well as if you're looking into having your loans forgiven and you want to apply for our loan forgiveness programs. You can do so by visiting studentaid.gov. But if you just want to get started right away to the FAFSA and you already have an FSA ID, you can come over to the upper right-hand corner here where it says log in. You click on that, and then you're going to enter your credentials, which is your username and password. Once you're in, you're ready to get started. Now, if you haven't done so already, and you're just coming to us for the first time, this is the first time you have heard of it, you do not have an FSA ID, then you can come to right next to it and create an account. When you create an account, we're going to ask things such as your first and last name, your date of birth, your social security number, as well as the state you reside in, your email address, and your mobile phone. Your email address and your mobile phone are used to verify your account. Or if you lose information, you lose your username or you lose your password, that allows you to regain access to your account as well. You don't need a social security number in order to sign up for an FSA ID, although it does help the process, as you're going to come to find as we navigate this particular application. So now we're get ready to get started with the FAFSA form. Today, we're going to focus on a dependent student. And I know a lot of you are eager to know what does it look like for it from an independent student's perspective. Well, we're going to cover that tomorrow night at our 7 o'clock session. Keep this in mind. When it comes to figuring out whether or not a student is dependent or independent, don't worry, you don't need to know that going in. We do have a calculator where you can check the boxes, and we'll get into that in just one moment. In this particular case, we're going to start the 2024-25 FAFSA form. So we're going to come here and go ahead and click started. But I always like to say the website and web pages have a purpose, right? Everything on the page, it serves as information to help you understand before you even get started. Just like the studentaid.gov pages, you see these four icons over here that has the same information as well. However, if you come and scroll down just a bit, you can also access information about the details on your FAFSA deadlines in your particular state. So in this case, we're going to click on 24-25 academic year, and then we're going to select the state of New York as the state that we're trying to figure out what is their state deadline, or what is my state deadline. And then you click here, verify deadlines, and then it's going to let you know what kind of aid the state offers, as well as when is their federal deadline, their particular deadline as well. You have to apply by March 1st, 2024. You can pick a variety of states, and information would change. If you want just all of them, you can go up to the right-hand side here and select View All FAFSA Deadlines. Now, A little bit of a forewarning. This is a prototype, so not all links are accessible. So if you see me highlight something and then go back to it, that just means that the link is not live on this particular platform itself. Now, as you come scrolling down a little bit more, you're going to see different information that is maybe useful to you. Number one is to who to complete the FAFSA form, right? How long would it take? That's a common question we receive. How long would this seating take? Typically, it can take anywhere up to an hour or less. We have known people to finish it within 20 minutes, or individuals can take up to an hour, whichever. Or the point is, it's in before the deadline. We also provide some information on what you need to know as well. So if you're wondering, you're curious, you have these burning questions, feel free to check out more information as it pertains to the FAFSA form. Last 2 points as it regards to this page, we do have a video on what is the FAFSA form. That is a short video. Please, you can share this information with your colleagues. You can share it on Twitter. You can, or formerly known as Twitter. You can share it on a multitude of social media platforms. All you need to do is come highlight the video. On the right-hand side, if you're viewing from a laptop or a desktop, to the 3 dots on the right-hand side, you click it, and you can go ahead and click share, and you'll receive a link, or you can share directly to the platform that you wish to share it on. When you come a little bit further down, we have additional questions about the FAFSA process. Typically, these are FAQs, or what's also known as frequently asked questions. So if you have questions as it pertains to the FAFSA form, FAFSA process, feel free to come on down and select one of these options. So that's the landing page. We wanted to make sure that we provided to you with information that is quickly accessible, because you may have some burning questions before you get started. If you're like me, you want to have as much information as possible before you even begin. So this is a way that you can go ahead and do so. So with that said, let's get started. So in this particular case, we're going to be completing this FAFSA form as a student named Rhea. When Rhea comes in, she's going to indicate what is she starting this form as. Now, Rhea could be a parent and a student at the same time. This is quite possible. But in this case, Rhea is a student, because if Rhea indicates that she's a parent, then she's going to be deemed independent, and we'll cover that part tomorrow. But for today, Rhea is coming in and completing the form as a student. Now, another disclaimer. We're also going to mention that Rhea's parents are married, but they're filing separately, okay? And we'll get into how that plays as we navigate this FAFSA form. So we're going to come down here to the little blue button that says continue, and we're going to go ahead and hit continue. Now, we have 4 different sections, 4 different slides that's going to give you more information and get you more prepared to complete the FAFSA form. Similar to the landing page, you're going to also see the same video. What is the FAFSA form? Just in case many of you were so quick to hit that button and get started right away because you're really excited. You just want to get it in before the deadline so you can be eligible for a state or institutional or federal aid. And we applaud you for your ambition and energy. So if you want to check out the video, you can check it out here if you missed it coming into the landing page. To move on to the next, you're going to hit continue, where we're going to give you more information as to who's a contributor, how to invite them, and what do you need to know. And don't worry, we'll get into this more as we navigate the FAFSA form itself. There's also information as it pertains to what to expect in regards to providing consent. Everyone is required to provide consent. When we say everyone, every contributor. So this will just let you know that it takes about an hour, but every contributor will be needing to provide consent and approval. And we're going to hit continue. And then finally, we're going to come to the section of information about what to know about after submitting a form. Now, this is just a snapshot of the other webinar that we have conducted. And if you're curious on how to prepare for the 24-25 FAFSA form, you might want to take a moment, check out our YouTube page of FSA Outreach, and check out our video on how to prepare for 24-25 FAFSA form. So we went through the 4 steps after landing on our landing page, and we are truly ready to start the FAFSA form. So we're going to come down over here, and we're going to select Start FAFSA Form. And this information is going to be pre-populated after from your FSA ID information. So when a student or parent comes in, they create an FSA ID. Once they log into the FAFSA and just in terms of completing it, this information will be pre-populated. But it's always good practice just to make sure that you have your accurate information. So when you come to the site, you're going to scroll down, make sure that everything looks good. That looks like the permanent address is looking good for Rhea. And then Rhea says, I am ready and I'm good to go. So they're going to go ahead and hit continue. The next question that we ask is, what is your state of legal residence? All we're asking is, when did you become a resident of this particular state? For some people, it may be their time of birth, right? For others, it may be a couple years ago, maybe last week, it may even be yesterday. In this particular case, we're going to say Rhea lived here all her life. And we're going to go ahead and say she was a legal resident since January of 2023. We only need the month and the year. We don't need the exact date. So if you have a general idea, you can go ahead and put that particular time on the FAFSA form itself. Then we're going to hit continue. Now, remember when I said before, every contributor is required to provide consent and approval. If a contributor does not provide consent and approval, then a student is ineligible for federal student aid. So when you scroll down here, and this is giving you more information about being a contributor and providing consent, what does that mean? Providing consent means we're taking information that was already provided and processed from the IRS and populating it onto the FAFSA form itself. That's providing us consent to be able to do so. Now, there are several different scenarios where things are populated now versus later. Don't worry, we'll get into that just a bit. But this is providing consent for us to transfer, or what's also known as federally transmitted income information, to the FAFSA form itself. So the student comes down and they can hit approve. Now, if they hit decline, then they're going to be alerted saying that the student will be ineligible for federal student aid if they decline to provide consent. If the student declines to provide consent at the time of completing the FAFSA form and goes through the FAFSA form and completes it, don't worry, it doesn't mean that you can't go back and provide consent at a later time, which you can. In this particular case, we're going to say Rhea says, I want to provide consent. She didn't work last year. That's fine. So she's going to go ahead and say, I provide consent. The next section is going to, well, the first section of the next 5 is going to be on her personal circumstance. We want to learn a little bit more about Rhea. So Rhea reads the description of words that content we have here, and she is ready to continue. Now we're going to ask questions about her marital status. Marital status does also impact your tax filing, and we'll get into that in a second as it pertains to the parents. But for this particular student, she's a dependent student, and she's going to claim that she's single and she is never married. Typically, parents for dependent students will be one of these selections, but for this particular student, this student is going to be single and never married. And she's going to go ahead and hit continue. The next question we're going to ask of Rhea is what are her college plans? Is she entering college for the first time? Now, let me pause there for a moment. When we say college, we also mean university and or career school. So when they're looking at these questions, and are you entering it for the first time as a freshman for your first year? Are you entering it for a second year as a sophomore? Or are you entering it as a junior or beyond? Or are you entering it in grad school and going for your master's or a doctoral or doctorate degree as well? In this particular case, Rhea is entering it as a first year freshman. Like, I hope many of you are coming on this platform, whether or not you're a parent going back to college or a student going for the first time. This is where we're going to indicate your college or career plans. When you come down a little bit further, we ask a second question of when you begin the 24-25, do you have your bachelor's degree already? Or are you going for a second bachelor's? Are you going for a master's and things like that? So in this particular case, Rhea is a first year freshman, and she did not earn her first bachelor degree. So Rhea is a first year freshman, and she has not earned her degree. Now she's ready to move on to the next page. Now we're diving a little bit deeper. We're asking about their personal circumstances. These are also known as dependency questions, okay? If Drea answers yes to any one of these, she's going to be considered an independent student. Again, we'll cover that in tomorrow's session as we cover independent students in the various circumstances and scenarios around that. So Rhea reviewed these questions and she looked and she said, I'm not serving in active duty. I'm not a veteran. I do not have any children. At the time when I was 13, I was not an orphan, awarded a court, or in foster care. She's not a legally emancipated minor as determined by the court, nor is she in legal guardianship with anyone other than her parent or step parent as determined by the court as well. So in her particular case, she's going to come here and select none of these apply. And as you can see, everything else was grayed out. She's going to come over and hit continue. Now we're going to ask additional questions regarding her dependency. We're asking at the time of this year, of July 1st, 2023, were you unaccompanied or were you either homeless, self-supporting, at risk of being homeless? If she enters yes, then we're going to ask her the questions of, well, guess what? Do you have one of these individuals that can verify that? If she hits none of these apply, then what we're going to determine for her to be is a provisional independent status. That means that her situation is going to need to be verified before the final determination of being an independent student. But Rhea wasn't any of these. So Rhea is going to come here and select no. The next question that we're going to ask is, did you experience any unusual circumstances? For those of you that have joined us from the road, I'm just going to go ahead and read what we mean, a little bit about what we mean by unusual circumstances. We mean, did you leave home due to an abusive or threatened environment? Were you abandoned or from a stranger from your parents? Are you a refugee? Are you a victim of human trafficking? Are you incarcerated or your parents incarcerated, or you just can't contact your parents? So if you meet any one of these criteria, then in this particular case, the student is going to indicate that they have an unusual circumstance. But Reyes does not in this particular case. So she's going to select no. If you do have an unusual circumstances that could be verified, then you may be considered to be an independent student. And then you can skip the questions about the parent. So we're going to go ahead and hit continue. Now, determination for Rhea was as we expected. She's a dependent student. And the good thing about the 24-25 FAFSA form is that this wizard affords the student the ability to see the determination right then in the beginning. And so they know right now, I'll need information from my parent. So we let Rhea know, hey, if you don't want to include information from your parent, that's fine, but you'll only be considered for the unsubsidized loan. So if you're eligible for a grant or additional a subsidized loan or additional aid, you won't be eligible unless we receive information about your parent or parents. So in this case, she says, you know what? I don't want to be, they'll be providing information. They're not unwilling. And so I'm going to get information from them. And so great job, Rhea. We're going to keep on going, and we're ready to now provide additional information about your parents. So remember when I stated the marital status impacts your tax filing status. This is where it's starting to come into play and take shape. The first question that we're going to ask Rhea is, are your parents married to each other? She can say yes. Then we're going to let her know you have to provide information for both parents. So we're going to pause right there. If your parents are legally married, we're going to need information from both parents. But since we're on completing the FAFSA form, let's run a couple scenarios just in case you're from a single parent home, only have one parent, or you meet other scenarios as well. So we're going to say no in this particular case. In that next case, we say, well, do they live together? Well, they do live together. Guess what? If your parents are not married, but they still live together, then we're going to need information from both parents. Now, let's say, for example, they don't live together. Then we're going to ask you the question of who provided more financial support in the last 12 months. Then you would say, okay, well, they provided the equal amount. Then you'll hit no, and you will refer to the parent with the greater income or assets in the following question. And then you get here, you say, okay, well, did they remarry? You say, well, yes, they did. Then we're going to need information from the parent and the step parent. Now, the parent and the step parent are the ones providing more of the financial support. If in a case where just the parent is not providing more than support, and the one parent that is custodial parent is providing the most support, then the student is just going to hit yes. And then we'll say, did they remarry? If they say, well, no, then you just provide that information for that parent only. Okay? But remember, Rhea's parents in this particular case are married, and we're gonna be entering information for both parents. But if she's only living with one parent who's providing all the most financial support, that's the information that we're going to need information from, and that person is going to be deemed the contributor. So we're going to go ahead and hit continue. Now there's going to need information about the parent. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to enter Rhea's parent's name. And in this case, we're going to use a commonly used name of John Doe. John Doe was born January 1st of 1985. The Social Security number, we're just going to include a generic, and then we're going to come down here and enter John Doe's email address. Okay, we're going to use our Gmail, and then we're going to add another one just for verification purposes. And then we have to provide information about parent number 2. And in this case, we're going to use Jane Doe. Jane Doe was born the same day as John Doe. We're going to do a generic Social Security number. And now, if a parent does not have a Social Security number, what we're going to ask is that we're going to ask for the address and an email address. And we're going to send them an invite, and they're going to be asked to create an FSA ID. While creating an FSA ID, they do not need to have a Social Security number. But in this case, Jane Doe does have a Social Security number. And her email address is going to be jane.doe@yahoo.com. Okay, so we have jane.doe@yahoo.com. And now both parents are prepared to receive an invite. So we're going to send one to parent number 1, and we're going to send one to parent number 2. Now, this is from the student's perspective. I'm going to cover what it looks like from a parent perspective after they have received it in just a bit. But so when the student have sent the invitations, they have identified these 2 individuals as possible contributors, and then they're ready to move on. So the student moves on to their demographics. These questions are completely optional, but it helps us provide better services to the different parts of the United States. So answering these questions is very, very helpful to the work that we do. So we go ahead and hit continue. And now we're going to ask questions about gender. Rhea is a female. Either one, she could answer any one of those, or she could prefer not to answer. You're going to go ahead and hit continue. Then we're going to ask questions about her race and ethnicity. Basically, she's going to be a Mexican American, and she says she's also Cuban as well. And we're going to ask her what is her race. We're going to say she's Black or African, and we're going to say that's what she identifies as. And we're going to hit continue. Again, these are completely optional. Now, the next question is very important. The next question is going to be about citizenship. Either if you're a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen, you are eligible for federal financial aid. If you're neither U.S. citizen or non-eligible, then you're not eligible for federal financial aid. In this case, Rhea is a U.S. citizen or national. And she's going to go ahead and continue. And then we're going to ask questions about the parent education status. Did her parents attend college? Did they attend some college? Or did they already complete? In this case, she's going to say that she comes from parents who actually attended college. Oh, you know what? Let's change that up for a second. Let's have one parent attended college and the other did not. I like to have a little balance in my scenarios. And now we're going to go ahead and continue. We're going to also ask questions about if they were killed in the line of duty and after the after the events of 9/11 or serving active serving official duties as a public safety officer. In this case, she doesn't meet her parents don't meet that criteria, so she's going to hit no. And she's ready to move on to the high school completion status. We're asking this question to say, have you completed high school? Do you have a high school diploma? Were you homeschooled? Let's say if she was home, if she has a high school diploma, she'll click that box. If she has a GED, then we're going to ask additional questions as to what kind of school recognized high school equivalent, whether it's a GED or TASIC or HISLET or other. Keep that in mind as well, in addition to the state that they received that in. And if you select homeschool, the outcomes will be similar to a high school diploma. In this particular case, we're going to say that she or she have earned her high school diploma. Then we're going to ask questions about her high school. Where did she graduate high school? We're going to say since she's been in New York her entire life, we're going to say it's New York. And we're going to say, okay, we're going to give her a nice town of Manchester, and we're going to say Goose Rock Elementary is where she went to high school. Well, we're going to change it up a little bit different. Well, we'll use that one just in case it's a K through 12. And we're going to come down here and select search. Now, when that comes up, you're going to see a nice little population. Now, remember, we are on a prototype platform. We limited the responses. When you are filling out the FAFSA form, you will see your school. And if you don't, you can always add a school to the application and continue on the process. It's not going to hold you up if you do not see your school. We're choosing this school because it's one of the selections that we have already pre-populated into this particular platform. If you do need to add a school, you just come on right down here and you add a school manually. And now she's ready to move on to the next. And she's going to come a little bit further down to continue. We're going to ask her to confirm it. She can edit it, edit the city and the state as well. If that's a particular school, it is not reflective, or the information that she sees is not the accurate information as well. But if it is the accurate information, she can come here and hit continue. Now we are ready to move on to the third section, and that's on her finances. Now, we do acknowledge that individuals do have special circumstances around their finances, but we always encourage you to complete the FAFSA form. And when you complete the FAFSA form, then you will be able to also contact the financial aid office as well. Now you're going to go ahead and hit continue. Now, as you can see, what you don't see here are most of the information that was already pre-populated after you have consented and provided us approval. Here's a couple things to note when you're going through this process of having things pre-populated in regard to FTI. Number one, if they're married and they're following jointly, only one parent has to be deemed a contributor. Only one parent has to provide consent. Okay? I'm going to say that one more time, and don't worry, it's going to be 4 different sections, and I'm going to repeat them twice. If your parents are married, filed jointly, and you only need one of them to serve as the contributor and to provide consent. If you're married, at the time of the application, you're actually divorced, but your tax returns reflect a mild filed jointly, then what happens is that when the FTI comes over and you provide consent and approval, what you're going to have to do is enter information manually based upon your information from the parent that's providing the most financial support. Now, if you're married filed separately, then both parents are going to be required to be the contributor. That's the scenario that we're going to be working on, that both parents are deemed contributors and they have to provide consent because their tax filing statement is married filed separately. And then we have single, divorced, widowed, separated. Then we're just going to need information from the parent that's providing the most financial support. And lastly, if your parent is a foreign tax filer, they still have to provide consent. But just keep in mind that they're going to be asked to provide information manually. They will be prompted to enter the dollars as their country dollars that will be converted into American dollars as well. So for this particular student, she doesn't have an IRA rollover. She doesn't have any kind of pension, or she doesn't have any grants or scholarships that is serving as income, nor does she have any foreign and earned income inclusion as well. So she's just going to place zeros down the line, and she's going to go ahead and hit continue. The next thing we're going to ask is of the assets. We're looking for information as it pertains to cash savings and checking account as of the day that FAFSA is completed. So in her bank account, she has $5. This is a student from high school we're talking about. So we have and then when it comes down to the investments, does she have any investments as regard to real estate? Now, when determining the net value of your real estate, it's whatever the appraised value is minus any mortgages or any type of liens, and then you come with your net. In this particular case, she doesn't have any. If she had a business, it's the value of the business minus any liability. In this particular case, she doesn't own any type of business, so we're going to go ahead and hit zero. And go ahead, the next step we're going to hit is continue. Now we're ready to move on to section number 4. That is to select the colleges. Now the student is ready to select the college that she's really interested in. She loves New York. She really does. But she really loves California. And she really wants to go to California. So this is where she has her eyes set. Now, she has a couple optional things. She can either pull up the big list of all of the colleges and universities and career schools in California and just select from there, because she can select up to 20, or she can identify the city, she can identify the school name. In this particular case, we're going to say she doesn't care what school it is. She's ready to go to any school in the state of California. But as a disclaimer, we are operating on our prototype platform, and we already preloaded some of these options. So we're going to say that she wants to select the top 3 that came up. We'll go up with the top 4. So she's going to come on down, scroll down. Now, when we have the bigger list, when the 24-25 FAFSA is released, then you can go by page. But again, this is a prototype, and we have disabled the links over here. But we wanted to give you a look that you will see page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, or you can search for more and add more up to 20. In her particular case, she's already selected 4, as you see here, and she's ready to continue on to the next step. Now we're going to give her information as regards to her schools. But we also want to have a disclaimer letting her know that if you wish to be considered for the grants from the state of New York, you might want to add an in-state school as part of your list as well. Now, if she feels like she wants to go back and add an in-state school, she can feel free to do so. If she says, no, I have my heart set on going to California, then she want to make sure that she comes down and continue on. Now, the great part of this particular page is that when you scroll down, you can also check info about that particular school. So we're going to go with Bernard College, and you can find out information from their school code, their website, what is their in-state tuition or out-of-state tuition and fees. You can check out their average annual cost, which is their cost of attendance, their graduation rate, which looks at the number of students coming in and the percentage of those graduating. The retention, how many are the students staying at the school, right? So there's a period of time in which we are looking at that and evaluating that as well. We also look at how many students are transferring that come into the school for the first time. Are they transferring out? So a low transfer rate is always a good thing to see. And then we also identify the median debt for students upon completing their programs, as well as the default rate. The default rate means that you would not, because you're considered that you're in and you're trying to make payments, but unfortunately you've neglected on your agreement, and now your account is in default. So we do track the default rate, and seeing a high default rate might cause alarm. So you want to just factor that in as you're making a determination as to what institution is the best fit for you. We do have a breakdown as to what we mean by the certain terminologies that we have above, because we recognize not everybody knows exactly the terminology when it comes to financial aid, and there's a lot to learn. There are seasoned veterans still learning. I am always continuously learning. So it's always good to have this sort of description and definitions to help you as you're navigating this very complex process. So you can either print this page and have it as a guide, or you can return back. You can click on view info on any one of these institutions, and you can review, and you will see it is independent to the institutions to help you make an informed decision. Then you want to go ahead and click continue. Now, you finally got to the end as a student. You have all these elements checked off. If you want to go back, you can click on that and you can go back to the section. All you have to do is expand it and click on any one of these and go back to that particular question if you want to update that information. But this is giving you an opportunity to update information before you sign away. Now, just because you sign away doesn't make you obligated for any financial obligations, okay? Just keep that in mind. You're just signing off that the information is correct and accurate and good to go for processing. That's all. You're not obligated for any finances just by completing this form itself. Now, as you see what the contributor, as you see here, that we have identified John Doe and Jane Doe as contributors. If a student wishes to change that contributor, they can come up here and change their contributor, and then that person will be sent an email and inviting them to complete information on the student's behalf. So they know they see this, okay, the invites have been sent, I'm ready to sign. So the student hits continue, scrolls down a little bit more, check the box of Irate Tran, agree to the terms outlined above, and she hits sign. And guess what? As a student, she's all done. Now she just has to inform the parent that, hey, you need to now complete yours. Check your email as well. So remember when I said we're going to look at this from a parent's perspective? Let's go ahead and do so. So we're going to click on the parent. So when you get the email in your email address, this is the email that you will see. It's going to have your name. It's going to let you know that Rhea can't be eligible for a federal student aid without your input. They're going to need your consent. They're going to need your information. They're going to need you to create an FSA ID so they can go ahead and have this processed electronically. Now, if you don't fill out the form within 45 days, then the student will need to resend the invite to you. So, as a parent, parents are ready to go. They're going to go ahead and click log on. Now, in this particular case, they're going to be sent to the website where they're going to enter their username and password. And remember, in this particular case, the first parent is John Doe. They're going to go ahead and hit log in. And they're going to another disclaimer saying, hey, they need your help to complete this FAFSA. They can't see your information. You can't really see their information. This information is held private. We just need you to input some information. They said, okay, the parent one says, I'm going to go ahead and help her out. I'm going to go ahead and click accept invitation. Again, just because you have been identified as a contributor does not make you liable for any educational expenses. It just means that you're contributing to the information that's listed on the FAFSA form itself. So in this particular case, they're agreeing to share their information. Now they're going to come down. We have a couple of frequently asked questions as to why you're being invited. That's because the student invited you, as well as the other information that we believe to be very helpful as you're navigating your part of the process, parents. So go ahead and hit continue after you have read it all. And similar to the student's view, you have these 4 sections. You have the video, you have information about being a contributor. You also have information about providing consent. And then lastly, you have overall information as to what to expect after filling out the FAFSA form itself. Again, we do have this more in detail in our video on how to prepare for the 24-25 FAFSA form on our YouTube page. Now, the parent is ready to get started to add their information. And as you're going to see, the longest part of the process was the student's part. It gets tremendously shorter from here. So the parent, go ahead and click start the form. They just want to make sure that all of their information is accurate. Again, John Doe, born on January 1st, 1985. That's their social security number, email address, and mobile number. They're just double checking the mailing address as well. Then they're going to go ahead and hit continue. The next question is, again, about consent. If a parent comes down and they said, okay, well, I don't feel comfortable, I'm not going to provide consent, then they will be alerted that the student will be ineligible for federal student aid because all contributors need to provide consent. They're going to come here and they're going to provide consent here. And now they're ready to move on to the demographic information. Remember, the demographic information for the most part is optional. So they come in here, they click continue. They're going to enter that they are married. Okay. I am married. And then we're going to go ahead and hit continue. And once they hit continue, then they have, remember, this couple was married, filing separately. Now, because they have filed separately, we're going to need information from their spouse, because their spouse under that tax filing status has been identified as an additional contributor. So parent number one does have the option to go ahead and add their spouse to it, although the invitation was already sent by the student. They're going to go ahead and enter in their social security number. And then they're going to say, okay, that person can be reached at janedoe@yahoo.com. Okay. And then they click send the invitation to Jane Doe. Now, Jane Doe gets two invitations, one from the student and one from their partner. Now they're going to go ahead and hit continue because they have satisfied that particular section. We do ask the parent's state of legal residence. In this particular case, they live with the student, so they're going to go ahead and click New York. Now they lived in New York all their life as well. Now that's perfectly fine if you move to a different state earlier than your student, because as you can see, it was pre-populated to that. Because and typically that does happen. In this particular state, case, they lived all their life, but if they lived there longer than the student, but they were originally from another state, you just put that particular month and year as well. And they're going to go ahead and hit continue. Now, because they already provided consent, all of the information was already federally transmitted onto the FAFSA form itself. So there's nothing they need to do in terms of entering information. That's why you see it skipping a tremendous amount of questions that you're so used to seeing when you're trying to line up with what's on your tax return. You saw that it skipped a lot of questions. That's because it's already pre-populated onto the FAFSA form itself. Now, if they do have any special circumstances like a loss in wages, they lost their job, things like that, they're going to continue on with the form, and you want to make sure that you are contacting the financial aid office regarding that particular circumstance as well. So you're going to go ahead and hit continue, parents, and then we're going to ask you additional information, such as do you have any earned income tax credit and additional information regarding it? If you don't, you just come down here, hit none of these apply. But if you are part of any one of these scenarios, or you're applying this part of your tax, you claim this one part of your taxes, then you want to make sure that you go ahead and click one of these boxes here as well. And you're going to go ahead and hit continue. Now, parents, here's an opportunity for you to correct information, because if you're like me, you're not perfect, right? Nor is a student perfect. Sometimes students put things in the information. They put I have three in the household, and they forget about their brothers and sisters and their other siblings as well. So what you always want to make sure you do as you're coming in and you're checking this information, we want to always say first, yes, the family size is different from what the student indicated. You're just doing it to check. If it's actually 3, then you just say no, and you hit continue. If it is changed, you say, okay, you know what? They forgot 1, so you just add 1. So if you have 2 dependents from a 2-parent household, then you just add 1. Okay, then you see that number changed. If they miss 2 of their siblings, as you notice, this is changing as I'm adjusting this number. So you're just adding onto the family size. Okay. In this particular case, we'll leave it and we'll say that the student forgot their 2 other siblings because they maybe read the question wrong, which can happen from time to time. I mean, we're all not perfect. But you want to make sure you click number 2 and then hit continue. Once you hit continue, everything will be reconfigured. And then we're going to ask the question, out of those 5 people, excluding the parents, how many students are in college? We're going to say 2. Okay. In this particular case, 2 parents, and in this family, 2 of the children are 2 of the students rather, are in college. Couple things to note: that the big change from previous years, that the number at college will not impact the SAI, which is the Student Aid Index, as it has impacted the EFC, which is also known as the Expected Family Contribution, which that term is going away, and SAI is now the term we should use. So you just want to enter the number in college here. Then the next section is going to afford the parent to enter additional information that may not have been populated from their tax returns, such as rollovers or pension rollovers. So they're going to ahead and say, well, I didn't have any rollovers. If you have a dollar amount, feel free to enter that dollar amount. But these are the same questions that was posed to the student as well. So they're going to go ahead and hit continue. After they have hit continue, they're going to add additional information. As they didn't receive any annual child support. If they did, then they're just going to enter the value in that particular section. Then in here, they're going to include the current total of the cash savings and checkings. Typically, a good rule of thumb is what would it be after you pay all your bills? If they were to debit everything out of the account, then what is that balance at that point? Then that's a good form of practice. Then you come down to the net worth of your real estate and your investments as well. So you go ahead and hit continue. Now this individual, the parent one, is saying, finally, I have did my section and I am ready to go. But however, the student's FAFSA is not ready to be submitted because we still need information from the second contributor. So this parent says, I'm done. I'm just going to sign it, and then I'm going to continue on and let them complete it. So they're going to come in here. I, John Doe, agree to the terms outlined above. So they're going to go ahead and click sign. And now we let them know some information about what they can do to check their email, but we still need one more person to sign. So what they do is said, okay, we need one more person. So here's a bonus scenario we're going to give to you. What does it look like when parent number 2 gets that email? So when parent number 2 gets the email, then we let them know, Jane, they won't be eligible unless you provide your input. Now Jane Doe comes in and completes the FAFSA. Now, just like before, they come in, they log on. They're going to go ahead and hit log on after entering their information. If they forgot it, they can just select forgot username or forgot my password and proceed through the process of resetting. So similar to parent number 1, they have to hit accept invitation in order to move on to the next screen. Once they provide that, they're going to get prompted with the information that was displayed for parent number 1. They have an opportunity to review the information that was placed onto the FAFSA form. Mind you, Jane Doe already has an FSA ID. That's why this was able to be pre-populated onto the FAFSA form itself. Without an FSA ID, it takes additional time to be verified, the application itself as well as the FSA ID. So now they're going to also have to provide consent and approval. They're going to have to come down here. If they do not provide consent, then the same pop-up will occur as parent number 1, that the student will be ineligible for federal student aid. But in this case, Jane Doe really wants the student to maximize their eligibility, and she's going to go ahead and approve this particular consent. We do ask additional information as it pertains to the finances. Again, once you provide consent, the information is being transmitted onto the FAFSA form itself. She has continued. We just ask the same information that we asked of parent number 1 and of the student. They hit continue, and then you come into the second section, which is very short, of just signing. As you saw in the beginning, you had the student's information, then you had the parent 1 information, then parent 2 information was much smaller than either or. Then you just go ahead and hit continue, and then you come down, select Jane. I, Jane, agree to the terms outlined above, and you go ahead and hit sign. Now you just want to double check, make sure all the information is there. All the information is complete. They have reached the end of the FAFSA form. The FAFSA form is now being submitted for approval and review, which means the student is done. Now, if you made it this far, we've hoped you learned how to complete the FAFSA form as a dependent student. But wait, before we bring back in Fred, we just have a couple different things that we want to sort of bring you in on and inform you of. First and foremost, you can find us on our social media platforms, whether you're on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Please join us. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which again, we have a video up there right now on how to prepare for the 24-25 FAFSA form. So check out that video. You can check us out on our FSA Outreach YouTube channel. With that said, I'm going to bring back my esteemed colleague, Fred, to facilitate the question and answers that have come in during this walkthrough.
Thank you, Isaiah. Great job, Isaiah. Good job. Good job. We only have a few minutes left, unfortunately, for questions, but we got a few. I'm going to go ahead and start right here. This is from, I believe, taken from the section 2 you talked about, Isaiah. If the financial responsible parent changes from last year's FAFSA, how do you change the parent on the FAFSA form?
Great question. So every time a student goes to complete the FAFSA form, and in this particular case, they're going to be doing a renewal. They have the option of changing out their parent and whoever's going to be the contributor. So we look at them as contributors. A student can change their contributor on the FAFSA form itself.
Okay, thank you very much. Here's another question also from section 2. It says, can a parent with no social security number consent to the platform?
Absolutely. Great question. So an individual without a social security number can consent, because keep in mind, we require consent and approval from all contributors. So even if you do not have a social security number, you still can provide your consent and approval.
Okay, thank you very much. And here's one from section 1 you talked about in regard to deadlines for states. The question is the deadline by state for the state I live in or the state where the school is located?
That's an excellent question. So it's a little bit of both, because you do have some states that do offer aid to out-of-state students. So you always want to yield to the state where the college, university, or career school is located in, but you also want to take into account and never limit your options, and also include states that you live in. So if I live in the state of New York, I want to make sure that I'm including in-state colleges within the state of New York as part of the number of colleges listed on my FAFSA. But if I have plans to go to California like Rhea, I want to make sure that I'm adhering to those deadlines, in addition to the institutional deadlines as well.
Okay, here's another section 1 question. Do contributors have to make an FSA ID at least, 24 hours in advance, or can they create the same day?
Well, you technically can create one the same day, but it's still going to go through the process of verification, right? So it's still going to go through the systems of verifying who you are, as well as asking you to verify your email or your mobile number. So it's always good practice to sign up for the FSA ID as early as possible. Like right now, it's not coming until sometime December later. You want to make sure that you are completely setting up an FSA ID right now.
Here's another one from section 1. Do students verify or consent just once or multiple times within the form?
So excellent question. On the form itself, you're only consenting one time annually. So next year, you're going to have to consent again. But in one academic year, in one processing or completing the FAFSA form, you're only consenting one time.
We got about 3 minutes left. A few more questions here. A lot of questions for section 1. Here's one. Should the student create their FSA ID first and then have their parents or guardian or contributor make theirs second, or can they make them at the same time?
Really, there's no process or a systematic approach to who creates an FSA ID first or last. It's always good practice to try to do it now prior to completing the FAFSA form, regardless if the parent creates theirs or using theirs last time they were in college. They can use their own. So it's no real approach to who has to complete one first or create one first.
I think that's a great observation here. Just a couple of more questions here. Here's one coming in. What if one of my married parents died in 2023. How does my other parent answer the question on marriage and living together?
Excellent question. So if a parent is unfortunately passes away, that's under our unusual circumstances. You're still going to complete the FAFSA and put in all the information. And then the first thing that you should be doing once the FAFSA has been processed is contacting the schools that the student is interested in, because they're going to ask for additional documentation, whether it's by interviews or paper documentation, court issue documentation. They're going to ask to tell you what they need to verify your situation, your circumstance. But the process is go ahead and complete the FAFSA, answer the questions as they are listed. Once it's been processed, don't forget to contact the financial aid office regarding your circumstance.
Okay, here's a question here. It says, even if you complete it on behalf of your daughter, will still need to create an FSIT. Okay, will they still need to complete an FSCID, provide consent and approval and signature? And that's from our section 1 that you went over.
Sure. So everyone who's contributing to the FAFSA form, including the student, needs to have their own FSAID. So even if you're sitting with your student and you're completing the FAFSA form, your student is going to need to have theirs, and you would need to have yours. Now, a little bonus information regarding that. Let's say, for example, you're sitting with 2 students who are in college. The parent themselves only needs to have 1 to sign 1 student and 1 to have theirs. They don't need to have 2. They're going to be using their own.
Right. Here's a question. What if a parent doesn't want to input their high school, not a parent, a person, doesn't want to input their high school information, but still wants to complete the FAFSA form? Is that possible? Can they still do that? Leave that blank, or how does that work?
Great question. So technically, they can leave the high school blank. The more important question as it pertains to eligibility for federal student aid is whether or not they were able to earn their high school diploma or the state equivalent of a GED. That's the more important question.
Okay. How will we transfer the FAFSA information from one child to another?
Excellent question. So when a student already identifies you as a contributor, that information is being pushed to your profile. And most of your information will be populated on the student that identifies you as a contributor.
Okay. Here's one asking what tax information should they use, what tax year. For the 24-25 FAFSA form, which tax filing year will be evaluated? Is it 2022?
Correct. It's 2022. Several years ago, we expanded the year difference. And so it's always 2 years prior. So it's 2024. We need 2022. Similar to those who have completed the 23-24, who are using their 21 tax information. So for 24-25, we're going to need the 2022 tax information.
Okay, this is one talking about investments in 529 plans. If I have a 529B for a student, does she or do we have to put that information in the FAFSA when they ask about investments?
Yes, those are considered assets.
Okay, so they'll put that dollar amount on the FAFSA. I think that rounds up. That's about it, Isaiah. That pretty much ends all our Q&A questions. I want to thank everybody for joining today's session, and thank you, Isaiah, for such an informative session. We hope you all learned and got the information that you needed. We want to definitely recommend that you follow us, as I mentioned earlier, on YouTube at FSA Outreach, and also invite you to join our 3rd session for today, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be covering the topic return to repayment and the SAVE application. So join us for that at 6 p.m. this evening, October 25th. With that said, everyone have a great evening.